Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Florida Sound Archive podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Kaiser, and for today's episode, I have a returning guest. This guest graced the podcast airwaves way back in the year 2020. Wow, seems so long ago. August of
Wow.
2020. I have with me Jimi Fiano. Jimmy, welcome back to the podcast. Great to have you.
All right. Great to be here, man. Great seeing you.
When we last connected back in 2020, we were going through a little something called COVID-19, the whole world that shut down. So tell us, how have things changed for you since our last conversation?
So much had happened because back then I just started calling my trio the Jimmy Fiano band. Before then it was like the, whatevers and the whoever's and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to actually hang my name on my trio. And then I did, and we went out and started working. And while we were doing that, um, I had ideas to do songs and I was recording on everybody else's stuff. And and I said, you know what? I've got ideas for some songs myself. So I went in the studio and actually used some different fellas that I have been in the studio with that I loved. And we went in there and did a record. And I surprised myself because I went in and I came up with all these lyrics and I kind of halfway played them. I don't do real well rehearsing stuff down. I like stuff when it just hits me right at the moment. I'm a spontaneous kind of guy. So what we did is I wrote these lyrics and I wrote these songs and I halfway sang them. And then when we went in, we solidified the arrangements a little better. And it was like, wow, these are sounding really good. And then back the first time around, I had been working with a wonderful lady singer named Sean Murphy, who
Do
sang
you
the
remember
last,
her? Yeah.
yes, the last 30 years she'd been singing with Bob Seger. And before that, she sang with Little Feat, and before that, she sang with Eric Clapton, Peter Gabriel, and her first record she ever did was Meatloaf way back in the day, and they were a duet way back when. So I played on one of her records. She's got her own career besides singing with Bob Seger. She's got her own career as a unbelievable blues singer, and so I played on one of her records entitled Loretta, and I played on three tunes, I believe, and so and she loved them and she said, well, now if you need any vocals, you can, I'll sing on your stuff. And I was like, I'm going to hold you to that. She's like, I mean it, I
Returning the
mean it.
favor, it's
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I did all kinds of stuff. I hosted this jam night at this place called the Bamboo Room, and I brought in all these great blues artists came in and helped me, most of them for free or almost for free, because we just didn't have the budget to pay them what they deserved. So they came in to help me put this place on the map. And Sean, with her manager, came down from Nashville to help me. And I was working on my record, and I said, listen, I've got vocals. And she said, I'll do them if you come up and stay with us. And I said, okay. So I flew up to Nashville and stayed with her and her manager, TC Davis, of Lonesome Robes Management. And every day we would get up and do her vocals, and then we would do my vocals. And being that she did three-part harmony, doubled on everything like such a pro, just found the notes and hit them perfectly. And then I said, listen, can you coach me with my singing? And she said, yeah. And I didn't even actually have all my lyrics finished on my tunes. And at night I was going like sleeping, going, what if I can't even sing my own fucking songs? Oh my God. Because, I don't have this like super range. My range is about this big, but so I try to use it within what I have, and it's kind of gritty and growly. So I went in there and I started singing, and some of them were right up at the top of my range. But I pulled it off. And when I went in there singing, it had this growly voice. And when I heard it back, I said to the engineer and to Sean, I said, wow, I'm really sorry that my voice is so growly. And they said, oh, we like it. It's got personality. We really like it.
It
And I
does. I
said,
like it too. I like that sound. It's
so yeah, and it's not put on. I really wish I knew how to sing like correctly, but I only know how to sing like the way that you hear on my record, which is, so, and my album, my record is called, I just happen to have it. Oh, look, here it is right here. Look, It's called Sweat and Pray, and all the main tracks were done down here at Power Station, which is a world-class studio down here. It has this humongous $1 million Neve console. So we
What
did all the
city is that
tracks.
in?
It's in Pompano, in
Oh,
Pompano
Pompano.
Beach.
Okay.
Yeah, it was, and it's overseen by Tony Bon Jovi, who owned the original. That's John Bon Jovi's uncle. Oh, and it's overseen by him, which he has the original power station in New York. So all the stuff in there is just it's just top notch. And the engineers are just the people that own it, and Rob Roy and Paul Cronk, who they call Monkey. All these guys that work there, we're like on the same page. They're just there to help. So we work like a team, and we just got things done so great. Then I went up to Nashville and went into this kind of small basement studio, but had all the right stuff, great microphones, great microphone pre's. And we went in there and did the vocals. Then I came back and did some more overdubs at Power Station. Then a very good friend of mine named Steve Gordon, who's more in Miami, he actually, this guy, Morgan Waller, he's a big country star. Anyway, he's just mixed his record, and Morgan Waller's record right now is #1 on the country charts.
Wow.
And this friend of mine, Steve Gordon, who is a great guitar player as well, he's like, "Let me mix your record. I'll make it sound fantastic." And we have a long history. So I said, "Of course, of course." So when he did it, he wasn't kidding. Um, we mix it there, and then we did the mastering over at Fuller Sound, and Mike Fuller's done everything. Eric Clapton, all kinds.
Everybody,
Everybody. If
everyone.
you look at his list, it's like, so the thing is I spent a good chunk of money, but once you get involved in spending a lot of money on quality stuff in the beginning, you can't turn around and just do something with, like, at that point you're in with money, and it's just you want to see it out with all the best that you can possibly do. And we did it like that. And so we went
How
back
did you
in.
know? How did you know what musicians besides Sean Murphy? How did you know what other musicians you wanted to be a part of this album?
Okay, well, what happened? I had worked for a long time with a bass player on and off named Steve RG, who lives down here, who played with Casey and the Sunshine Band. He played with Wild Cherry and some bands like that back in the day, and he's still playing out with bands and doing lots of session work. And I absolutely love the way he plays. I call him the South Florida version of Lee Sklar. He reminds me of that. He just plays all the right parts at all the right times. And even just the notes, the length of the notes are right, because just he knows when to, it just plays what you need to hear. And I hooked him up with this drummer that I had been playing with in this other wonderful band that plays around town, an 8-piece band called the Big Rock Band. And this dude's name is Ivosky Cunningham, but they call him Muff. So what happened is I love the way he played, and I love the way he was a church drummer, and I love the way his foot, he just had this breath before he hit the snare and his breath before he hit the bass drum, and it just put the pocket in this really great spot. So when I was called to host this jam that was a blues jam every Wednesday night up in West Palm in a place called the Bamboo Room, and I put a house band together, I decided to get Steve Argy, and I decided to get Muff because we were going to be jamming, and I knew that they would once they played with each other. And then the other person I got was a guy named Mark Leach, who they call Muggy Doo, who toured and played keyboards with Buddy Miles and others. So he played the organ with us. So when people heard this band, they I knew that we didn't even have to rehearse. That would have took all the fun out of it. So every week we'd start out and we would do 5 tunes and then bring people up to play. And I'd say, okay, here's the tune, here's the key. And they're like, what do we do when we end? I go, well, we'll just see when we get there, because everybody, it was a band of like a bunch of professional cats. You could throw them at the ground as hard as you want, but they're always going to turn over and land on their feet. They just, if they make a mistake, it's the best sounding mistake you've ever heard. So, you know what I mean? They're just, so that's how I arrived at that. I wanted them to play together, and me, I had I was scheming all along. So once I played it, by the end of that first night, I looked on the stage, and every one of them was like, they were all just smiling because the groove and everything and the way we communicated was so well. And then later, many of the guests that came to my jam, they all hired those guys to use on gigs and stuff like that. And so I used them, and I currently am going to use them on my CD release party gig, and 3 other girl singers to take the place of Sean Murphy, which he did in the studio. So
what do you remember about the songwriting process for the album? Because a lot of these songs are originals.
yeah, 3 out of 5 are originals, and then the other 2 are my original renditions. And it was funny because some of them were things that were riffs from a long time ago that I wanted to come up with lyrics for, and then I had pieces of things. Like one of them was called Strangled by the Hands of Time, which is kind of basically like you're in a relationship with somebody and now you're like, oh my God, now how do I get out of this damn relationship? I'm in it forever now, and this is not what I signed on for. So that's called Strangled by the Hands of Time. So that was that one. And then the other one, it's funny because a lot of things I write things based a lot of times on, I'll say a phrase that it'll be a title of a song, and then I'll write around what the title of the song was. So like the title cut of this record is called Sweat and Pray. And I wrote that. It's funny. I get a lot of crazy, a lot of things that I come up with real quick, being pissed off or just thinking about, like when my son, who's 18, when he comes over and, somehow he thinks like the money just magically is just there always. Like, if he needs something, wow, it just, doesn't matter, I think what happened is I just told him, he came over. I was like, man, I just paid rent, all my bills. I forgot I owed this person money. And he like just looked at me and like went, hey Dad, there's this PS5 game I really want to get. Do you think you could? I said nothing to him. So I said, damn, didn't you just hear what I said? And he goes, yeah. So I was like starting to wash dishes. I go, God damn, all I ever do around here is sweat and pray that shit's gonna get done. And I go, oh, Sweat and Pray.
There you go. It inspired the title of your album.
So it started like that, you know what I mean? And then it's all based on, life things like, you pay your rent, but then the landlord comes and he wants more. You had to up your rent for whatever reason, and then you're driving to a job you can't stand and you can barely afford the gas to get there, and you get there, and then, like the boss gives you a bunch of shit anyway. You know what I mean? So, so that's what it is. I sweat and pray every day. I sweat and pray my life away. All I ever do is sweat and pray. So there was that one. And then the other one was, I had this idea for a long time. And I'll probably catch hell over this, but a lot of the jams that we go to, and some of these people are going to go, he's talking about me and my kid. But it was just an excuse to write a song. But a lot of people will come in, parents will come in with their kids, and they'll go, can my son sit in? He plays like the best blues guitar ever, and he's only 6. And I'm like, and I'm not to say that he probably doesn't play fantastic, but I'm trying to think at the age of 6, what type of blues could this kid have? You know what I mean? I mean, was he ever homeless? His girlfriend never left him because he hasn't had one yet. So there's, has he ever been chased by police? In jail? Probably none of those. So, so that's where I wrote Talkin Blues about young kids that sing and play blues guitar, but they actually don't know about blues. They've never had it. Only they've listened to others who have had it, and they parrot it. And I'll tell you, and I'm not saying that because I know someone's going to look at this and go, this old guy is so full of shit. My son is great. And they're probably right, and their son probably is great. I just don't think that they've lived the blues. That doesn't mean that they're probably not going to get a record deal and do a million times better than me playing blues. But I'm just saying, a lot of them, and God bless them, that I hope they never have to have the blues that I've had. I have had the blues. It's not like I'm not Jimi Fiano, blues guitar player. I played a million genres of music, but the sum total of everything I play, whether it be metal, jazz, funk, any of that stuff, and blues, as the sum total of that is my version of the blues. You know what I mean? So,
Definitely.
I didn't sit around and play Blind Melon, Homeless Person, or whatever, or you know, uh, Too Short Slim. I mean, I listened to like Albert King and Albert Collins and some guys like that. And the list could go on
Those
and on
aren't
and on.
just names, my friend, right? Those are legends in the blues
Yeah,
genre
yeah.
of music.
No, absolutely. Some of the older cats, some of Howlin' Wolf a little, and stuff like that. It's funny because a lot of the new blues guys, they're like, well, my blues guy is Joe Bonamassa. It's like, yeah, but Joe Bonamassa is a fantastic player, one of the best. And actually, what I like about Joe Bonamassa, what he has done is he's opened up a whole new, I want to say, category of blues rock slash shred blues, a little bit, if you will. There's some monster. Eric Gale's another one. Monster playing. Another guy who's doing fantastic, who I've been watching like crazy. I met him a long time ago. He won't remember me. I met him in Nashville, but it's a guy out of Canada named Anthony Gomes, who's also doing really, really well. And he finally just professed that no, I'm not a traditional blues player. I didn't grow up in the cotton field. I'm a guitar player that listened to some blues, but I was affected by rock, he says, just like we all were.
Right.
If you grew up and you played, it was really hard to drive by and not listen in the 80s, early 80s, especially Eddie Van Halen. How could you not? I'm not saying some of that seeps into your playing. You can't help it. And really my early blues was really and I'd say like in high school, and it was even it was older than I was, but it was Eric Clapton when he was in the Blues Breakers with John Mayall and the Cream stuff. That was, in my opinion, some of his most fiery playing, especially the Blues Breaker stuff, and the early BB King stuff. Was really good. If people, they have to understand that when people get older, they just don't do the same things that they did when they were younger on many levels,
Of
you know.
course. But
So,
speaking about talking the blues though, because I know you mentioned that as one of the tracks, we got to talk about the music video for Talkin'
okay,
Blues
yeah.
because I can't remember if you ever had a music video before, but you do now. So
I
talk
do.
about the making of this video and why was that song chosen to be the first single off
Okay.
the record?
Well, I think as far as blues form, it's well, I mean, there is a full-on blues that was recorded live, which was an Albert King song, actually done by I forget what the Peppermint Harris might have wrote it originally, but it's called "As the Years Go Passing By." That is a live cut I did. But what happened is, as far as what I wrote, of the three that I wrote, "Talkin' Blues" was the most one that I would say was blues rock nonetheless. Johnny Winter was another huge idol of mine, so there's a lot of my slide playing. Really, a lot of that comes from early Johnny Winter when I was very young, 15 years old, and I'm like old now. So what happened is the Talking Blues thing, like I told you, I I told you about kids that think they can play the blues, right? So it started right out. I got one of the girls who is the singer, Kendra Small, who's one of the singers in on stage, who's going to be with us at the CD release party, and she's in the next videos coming up. I decided she would be like I wanted to be a baby, so what I did is I went out and I got like a crib. And fortunately, I work with another guy, the guy that does my website stuff. He's I went when I went to go do a video, people were going, well, yes, we can put 4 cameras on you, and then we can do some editing, and it'll look like a great live performance. And I was like, that's everybody does that. I was like, I just can't do that. I'm not a handsome guy. I don't want to just be like, posing, into the camera. So I was like, I said, I want to do something. All my songs, I want to be with the theme of what the song is about. So this one being Talking Blues. And as I told you, it was about young kids that claim to have the blues and everything. So what I did is I told this guy that does my website, Rick, goes, Well, I mean, I was a videographer for years before I did websites. I said, okay, well, I have all these ideas. I said, I want to get a crib, and I want to cut a hole out and put my head in it, and I want to buy a little baby, and I want to rip the head off the baby, and I want to stick it under my beard so it looks like I'm this little teeny baby. And then Kendra, the girl in the beginning, as they come up on the crib, my whole body and head too is covered in a baby blanket, and she whips it off, and then there I am with this baby body, and I go, oh, and I keep referencing the baby throughout the video.
You
And
do.
then
What was the reaction you got when that was the vision that you had for this video?
people are going crazy over it. It's only been out about a week or so, and people are loving it. I'm so glad, because it's, like I said, the blues, I don't think the blues has to be all that sad. You know what I mean? And I know when I see something on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram and it's funny, I'm sharing it to other people going, look at this shit. Is this hilarious or what? So I put it out like going like, I hope people don't just think this is the stupidest thing ever. But everybody that was involved in it, as they were seeing the editing process, they said, you are one sick individual, but we absolutely love this. So it went really good. And the people that are involved with it, whatever I want to do, no matter how crazy, that's why I like using these people. They're with me every step of the way, and I have some super crazy ideas. So, and it wasn't like we had some big movie studio. We filmed everything on iPhones. Then later on in it, we did some film actually I did a crazy version of Hey Joe, which is insane, and you're gonna love it when you hear it. It goes from huge, big. It doesn't start out like, it doesn't go like, it doesn't go like, it doesn't do that stuff. That's the Hendrix way. So I wanted to play homage to him, but not do it like him. So I layered all these guitars and did this crazy stuff, and it goes from big, kind of to like, it's about, the guy shot his old lady, and then he's running away because he shot his, whatever. So he's running away, and then in the end, I do this big, huge solo, and then it's like he's, hey, Joe is like in a farm. I went out to a petting zoo, and I played a dobro, and the girls are singing, and we're all in our jeans like we escaped, getting caught by the cops. And I'm playing dobro and mandolin, and it goes just into a whole nother direction. So one of the girls that's in one of the three singers, her name is Jill Hickey. Jill, I said, hey, on this farm, there's a really beat up old trailer that they use for an office. And I said, listen, in the first verse, I say no place to stay at night, like you got kicked out of your house. I said, would you want to be like my trailer bride? I said, you got clothes to like, I said, showed her I said, this place is all beat up like trailer. Can you like act like, dress accordingly and act like you're coming out of there? Like, maybe you caught me fucking around or something. And so I gave her a bunch of my old clothes and shit. And she came out and she was like, you motherfucker, throwing shit at me and throwing a shoe. One of the shoes even hit me in the back of the head, and we just laughed about it. Like what would happen in real life anyway. And I put on these silly clothes like I was in my pajamas, watching Jerry Springer or something in the living room, trying to leave, and I'm like running, and she's throwing shit at me. So here's the thing. This video came out so good, and Sweat and Pray is the title cut. So I'm like, so me and Rick are looking at each other. We go, oh no, we Sweat and Pray has somehow got to be better than Talkin Blues. And I said, oh, don't you worry, man. I got ideas for that shit too, man. So we did. The video's done, and it's insane too. And what I did is there's a lot of talent down here in South Florida, man. I mean, I could just start naming names, and it would take the whole video of us, the whole interview of people that I know that are fantastic down here. So Sweat and Pray, it starts out about a landlord. So Rick says, hey, why don't we get that guitar player Jeff Prine to be your landlord? And I said, yeah. So we called him up. I go, you want to be my landlord? And he's like, yeah, of course I'll be your landlord. So Jeff Prine, who is an awesome guitar player in his own right and a longtime friend, is my landlord. So he's on one side of the door pulling, and I'm on the other side of the door not pulling, not letting him in. And then we used another bass player friend of mine because it's Sweat and Pray, right? So we did a scene where I'm praying in a church, right? So I got like a priest, and I used this friend of mine, Captain Reese. His name is Reese Singleton, and he's a bass player. He's a killer bass player and singer. So I said, "Would you want to be the priest?" He said, "Sure, I'll be the priest." So he's like doing water on me, right? And we're praying. So then we put a church background in that we photoshopped in or whatever, how they do that. And then he's giving this little bit of water on me, right? And we put down all these plastic garbage bags. And Rick comes with like a 5-gallon bucket of water and just throws it on me from behind in his apartment.
Was it cold or warm or what?
It was cold. And so it goes from him putting this little bit of water to all of a sudden it's like this lightning bolts come from the church walls, and then bam, I'm like completely soaked.
You really felt it hit you at that point.
Yeah. So we did that, and then we also used another really fantastic. He's kind of like, I would call him our South Florida BB King. We used a guy down here named Joey Gilmore, and we both play at this place down here called Blue Jean Blues on Fort Lauderdale. These wonderful twins, girls, hot girls own it. So I said, "Hey, do you want to be my boss?" And I said, "So what you're going to do is the two twins, Denise and Diane, these blondes, big blondes, they're going to be your girlfriends, and we're going to be out back by the dumpster. I'm going to give you a megaphone, and you're going to be just barking out orders to me, and the girls are going to be laughing like, 'Ha, you loser,' at me." So he did that, we did that. And like, it's just the other video, this next video, it might even be crazier than the one that you saw. So, and then I've had these other ideas. So when we did, what happened is the reason there's the bonus cut, the last cut on the record is As the Years Go Passing By, right? So I did that with another rhythm section, the band that I play out around town with, John O'Brien on bass and a drummer named Guido Marciano, both great players. And we play on a lot of weekends. So we were playing at this big venue, concert venue outside on Hollywood Beach, and it was pouring down rain. It was raining, and then it wasn't raining and whatever. So, they kept coming and taking a squeegee to the stage, and we were like, fuck. But we had to get through the 2 hour. It was a 2-hour set. It was like a show. So there was about 20 diehard fans out there. They weren't leaving. And I was like, okay. So I put this show together of like fast and slow songs and try to never get too boring. So we had already done Ain't No Sunshine. And I saw this good friend of mine out there named Jack Shaw. And he always comes and always asks if I can play As the Years Go Passing By. And I go, oh, fuck, Jack's here. I got to play. I said, you know what? I don't care that I just played Ain't No Sunshine. Let's fucking do this tune. So I did it. And then the guy who engineered it, he used to work at Prince's studio at Paisley Studios with Prince, and he's a great live engineer and a great engineer for recording. His name is Tim D. Aquino, and he's in charge of the sound there. And every time we do a gig there, I always don't feel like I did good, and I always say, Tim, and they record it. I always go, Tim, please erase that shit. That just was like he goes, you say that every time. So I said again, Tim, please, thanks, but would you please erase the shit? And he goes, I'm not erasing it. And so the next day, he sends me a SoundCloud link of the recording of it, and I go, wow, that sounds really good. I made a couple little mistakes on it, but not like crazy. And I was like, it's live, that's what happens when people play live. So, and I sent it to my drummer. My bass player goes, wow, that's a great recording. I sent it to my drummer. My drummer goes, is that me playing drums? I said, yeah, it's a great recording, isn't it? He said, yeah. So I said, you know what? This is so good. I'm putting it on as track number 5 on the CD.
I do want to talk about the upcoming CD release party, because you did mention that a little while ago, and that is in a couple weeks. It's in March 24th, if I'm not mistaken.
March 24th, down here in Hollywood, Florida. on the beach. It's from 7 to 9 at night on a Sunday at the band shell. Uh, um, I have a real good relationship. It's at Margaritaville Band Shell, and I have a really good relationship with Margaritaville Corp and the managers there. And they normally don't let you sell merchandise there, but I said, listen, I have 3 venues I'm considering for this. But I said, I want to keep this in the Margaritaville family. You guys treat me good. I like playing there. They said, let's do it. We're excited about that. We'll let you do a merchandise tent. And so I'm printing shirts. I'm in the middle of all that stuff. And I have a lot of friends I think are going to come. A lot of people are saying we can't wait. Because the band is stellar too. Like I said, we've got 3 girl singers and just an awesome, including myself, 4-piece band. Guitar, bass, drums, and organ, mostly organ, and some piano. So it's just, and we've rehearsed once. I did a vocal rehearsal. The girls sang like angels. Then I brought them in. We did a full band rehearsal with the girls. Sounded great. Now we're going to go and do it one more week just prior to the gig, just to tighten up, because all these guys in these bands are all guys everybody wants in their band, and they're all in a bunch of different bands. So for me to expect them to remember what we did 2 weeks ago and go on ain't going to happen. So we're going to do it close to the gig, and then we're going to do that. And also, right now I've released, first of all, if you go to jimifiano.com, JIMIFIANO.com, you can see the video. It's up. And also Talkin Blues is available as a download, the single. We did a single first, but starting in April or so, we're going to release all of them out. But I've been doing really well selling CDs. You can order the CD on jimifiano.com, and I always have a couple with me on my gigs. I don't like to, especially if I'm playing with someone else, I don't like to go out on someone else's gig and go, hey, forget about that guy, here's my CD. I might sell him a CD on the sly, but I don't, I don't even want to talk about it because I don't think that that's good business. You know what I mean? So, but after the CD release party, already right now, as of this morning, 12 radio stations worldwide have downloaded Talkin Blues. It's been getting airplay in Holland. It's been getting airplay in Texas and in Missouri. And I'm hoping these other, Port Charlotte, which is on the other coast of Florida, and a couple weird places too, South Africa, Australia. I'm hoping they're all going to wind up playing my stuff, and then I'm going to filter out all the rest of this stuff to them. Fortunately, Sean Murphy's manager, TC Davis, is helping. He's a longtime friend, and he's helping me with all this stuff. He kind of, him and Sean believe in me too, which is wonderful. Sean Murphy is just, she's the best singer that I've ever heard, really. I mean, and that's not just because I'm friendly with her. She just, if you get a chance, anybody gets a chance to listen to Sean Murphy, either with Little Feat on her own stuff. She has CDs of her own stuff. And of course, she sings background in Bob Seger for the last 30 years. I don't know if they're going to go out again, but whatever, they might. I know they do farewell tours, but some of these people do farewell tours. But anyway, so they were very inspiring to me. A lot of people, my girlfriend Ronnie was very inspiring. I didn't know if I could do this. I knew I could play in clubs and sing other people's stuff, but I didn't know if I really could go out there and do it on my own and just do it. But now after doing it, I know I can do it now. But I wasn't sure. The first time is scary.
What do you think the difference is in terms of you doing something like this now versus if you were to have done this 20, 30 years ago?
Okay, you want brutal honesty? Okay, I will give you brutal honesty.
I would expect nothing less from you, my friend.
Okay, all right, yeah. Back then, and everyone that knows me around here knows I had major bouts with drugs and alcohol. Major. I could drink anyone under the table and then some. And I liked other stuff too, you know what I mean? So, and I think, and it's really weird because I started playing very, very young, and I ran away from home when I was 16 and instantly started playing in clubs. And when I was 19, someone came up to me. I never believed anybody about anything. A guy came up to me, and this is before your time, but there was a band out, a great band out, from some of the members of Vanilla Fudge called Cactus. And someone came up to me and they said, would you consider being the guitar player in Cactus, which at the time was right up my alley in the style, because I was young and just fast and furious. And I was like, I'm kind of in a band right now. But here's the other thing that I know. If I would have achieved at that age any type of fame, the things that I wanted were drugs and alcohol, and I would have been able to get them, and we wouldn't be having this conversation now. I would have been dead. So there things, it might take time, but things work out for a reason. And that's why it's been a long process, and it's been a lot of, I had to look inward a lot at me, and then now that I've uncapped this whole original thing, I have a million ideas. I'm always like in the middle of the night picking up my phone and going da 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 da, or if you in the middle of the night have an idea, you better write it down or you better record it, because I don't care how many times you do it and you say, I know I'll remember this in the morning. You're not going to remember it in the morning. You just won't. So,
you got to keep your phone nearby, as I imagine you do, to
I
record
do
and capture those moments. So that way, by the
absolutely.
morning, you can remember what you were
Yeah.
thinking the day
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. Gone. No doubt. No doubt. So
Yeah.
so after, I think after this, starting in April, I believe with the way we have it positioned, all this stuff, I mean, I started doing this album, I think early June, you know what I mean? And then getting things done and then doing the videos, and people were like, when? And I'm like, it's going to happen. You have to be patient. There's a certain way to do things. One thing you cannot do is go back, do a record, and then tell all your friends on Facebook, okay, it's available on Spotify and iTunes. You might make enough to like eat, maybe take your son to Burger King. Yeah, you're not going to make any money doing it that way. So what I did is I'm building it, and I'm trying to get it. The thing is you got to figure, if your songs are on radio stations, just say around the world, then people are going to want to listen to your songs. So at that point, yeah, they have to figure out how to get them, and
Right.
so.
Are you getting any airplay in Florida at all from anything off the new album?
Not just yet, but I have some people that are in the biz down here, and I believe, I think I'm going to be getting, well, like I said, there was on the other coast, which is about 2 hours away, there's a radio station in Port Charlotte that they downloaded it. They haven't played it yet, but they just downloaded it this morning. So in most cases, if they're downloading it and they're streaming it, which means they're listening to it, they're probably going to play it. So I do believe I am going to get some airplay. I'm not listening. The radio stations down here in South Florida, there isn't even a top 40. There's a top 20, and it's all dancey, whatever. It's not. It's very contrived. You know what I mean? Actually, it's funny because if you have like an FM radio and you go channel surfing as you're driving up the coast of Florida, you'll get up towards Tampa and you'll go, wow, this is some good shit. I never heard anything like this. That we're down here, or we don't know any better, because we're just, here's your song. That's what you get.
And just on that note though, Jimmy, do you have any plans or intentions to do some light touring in the state, maybe playing some places like Tampa or Orlando, or maybe some other pockets of the state where you could probably get some good reactions in the
I
crowds?
do. I do. And I'll tell you what's holding me up from doing that right now is I'm trying, and it's for me, but it's also the people that I want to play my stuff. I want good players. I don't know that I'll be able to get the people that actually played on this record, because they're so in demand and they deserve good money. But I figure if you're hearing me on the radio, well, then a venue that's going to hire me, I'm not just some guy like, hey, buy my CD, I'm a really good blues guy. I'd be like, hey, listen, man, I'm the guy you just heard on the fucking radio. Pay me some money so I can bring my guys in. So my point of doing all this is to get the money up to pay my people. I don't even mind at this point. I'm losing money. I'm paying people for rehearsals. But I don't care. I chose, this is my passion. This is for me. So I don't mind doing all that. But because I want, at the end of the day, I want people to go, man, it's great playing with Jimi Fiano. He pays us good, treats us good. And that's what I intend to do. That's why I can't just get out there and go, hey man, listen, you want to come on the road with me? I can pay you $100 each gig, and that's going to be great. You know what I mean? So, that's why I'm holding off on that till we get some airplay. And what I've done with every speck of money I've made online and that I've sold, and I've been offering the CD to people for $20 on my gigs, right? I have an envelope with a bunch of 20s in it from this. I have a bank account with a bunch of money from online purchases. All merchandising is going in to the second record, because I've already got like about 8 tunes ready to go, just as crazy. Or actually, I learned from doing this. Probably, I would imagine the next record's going to even be better, because just from the process. I mean, I've recorded on many other people's stuff, but that's it. They want a couple guitar parts. Boom. I give them a couple guitar parts. They love it. They pay me. I'm done. They mix it the way they want to mix it. But now it's my shit. So now I'm even micro tuning it much more. So this record
Exactly.
I did good. It's the next one's going to be better.
And because also I'm thinking your influences, as we've talked before, they range quite far in terms of the different sounds you could incorporate, or maybe a direction that you might go in on the next record. Do you
Yes,
have any intentions as you work on that next album, when the time does come, maybe incorporating things like some funk or some jazz? Is that a possibility too?
absolutely. I have a couple tunes. This is the scary part. I have tunes that I've there's many scary parts, but this is one. I came up with this one tune that was funky as fuck. And I was playing it and I recorded it. I listened back and I go, this is too good. Where did I steal this from? This is like, is this like Aerosmith on a funky bender? What? I sent it to a couple people that I know, and I said, where did I steal this from? Please tell me right now so I can stop this. And they're like, no, I never heard it. It sounds similar to this and that, but it's not what so yeah, I have a lot of ideas. Really, what I like to call my stuff a little bit, I like to say it's ZZ Top meets Gary Moore. So there's blues laced in there. I love the sarcasm of the lyrics of ZZ Top. Somewhere in there, it's always about some chick that left him, or having sex, or something good, or something fun. And then Gary Moore's always killing it on guitar. So is Billy Gibbons. So there's that, and then it can all branch off from there. And I like to keep a thread of blues in there, but I'm not. I'm not a traditional blues guy. I'm just not. And I don't profess to be. You know what I mean? There are guys out there that do, and they are. There are guys out there that do profess to be, that aren't. But whatever. You know.
That's what I appreciate about your style and approach, Jimmy, is that you don't always know. You can't bank on this one particular sound because of the range of your influences and what you're into to this day. You could bring something that I wasn't expecting that would make me really happy that you played it.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I'm hoping too. Like Strangled by the Hands of Time. I was sitting there and I go, I want to write something that reminds me of something commercial that I heard on AM radio back when I was a kid driving in my car, that I thought was cool. Not something that I would necessarily play, but something that I thought was cool. So I remembered hearing stuff like fuzz tone guitar simulating horns, and I remember hearing choral electric sitar, which is, hang on, I just happen to have one right here. Hang on. So I can do that. I have a, I don't know if you look in the back behind me, you can't really see, but there's a million guitars on the wall. At least 30, maybe not a million, but at least 30.
I was trying
So
to count all of them, but
yeah.
I wasn't.
So, but to any of you watching, I have a really good alarm system. So be careful if you think you're coming by and taking care of this shit. And I own 5 guns. So hang on a second.
You've
All
been
right,
warned.
that's right, damn it. So, okay. So here, this right here is a choral electric sitar. You've heard it on a million records. You just don't know it. Not so much recently, but back in the day. So let me plug it in right here. Like I said, we're not going for quality. So you have this sympathetic vibrating strings right here. Okay. So, but what really is cool is this sound like it. So, so one of the tunes, like Strangled by the Hands of Time, goes. You know, so it has that old schooly sound to it.
Right.
So that was just something that I wanted to do, you know, and
How
then
often
going
does that guitar make it out to one of your live gigs?
never,
How come?
never. It's too delicate. It's a collectible guitar, and it's a delicate thing. You know what I mean? So I never really get to play those parts verbatim when I play the originals. But you know, all the melodies are the same. But you know, and it's funny because another thing, briefly for about a nanosecond, I said, "Oh, how am I going to play this live? There's like 40 guitar parts on this," and I said, "What do I give a shit?" I said, "Listen." We want people to hear a good record. That's what we want. Do you care how many guitars it takes to make a good sounding record? No, you want to hear a good record. You don't want to hear a stripped down version of me doing it in my trio. Yeah, you're going to hear that live and you're going to like that too. But when you're in the studio and you can, you should. At least that's the way I feel. You know, I mean, even Jimi Hendrix said, studio live is live and studio is studio. If you're going to do overdub, make it happen. You know what I mean? So that's why I got Sean to do 3-part harmony, and then she doubled it to sound huge, you know? So everything was all about making a good record. And then, you know, you got to take it one thing at a time. You can't think about, well, here I go. I'm going to start writing songs for a record. Oh, what about the tour? What fucking tour? You don't even have a good record yet. You got to make a good record. Perhaps somebody will like it. Then maybe you'll get to tour, you know? So you have to put one foot in front of the other. And mine was to make a good record. And I think, judging from what others have told me, it's a good sounding record. It's a good record. It's produced well, and it has all the right elements. You know what I mean? So it's funny because I played it for some, well, I lived out in California a long time ago, right? So I was in a band just before I left. This is on episode 8. I was in a band with Mark Drabe, who's the drummer who played on Eye of the Tiger, who was in Survivor, who played on also on Vital Signs. He played on all their big hits. And not only was he in a band, there was another guitar player named Randy Burns, who was the songwriter and a very good guitar player, who went on to be an engineer. He went on to be a producer. He produced, if you look at Megadeth's record, Peace Sells, but Who's Buying, the first Megadeth record, he is the producer on that record. So
probably my favorite Megadeth record too.
And if you look on the back of it, it'll say, it says produced by Dave Mustaine and Randy Burns, because it just whatever, because of how he is. But really, Randy did the producing. He also did Nuclear Assault back in the day. He did all that kind of stuff. So, but he's a very well-rounded guitar player, even though that is what he chose to produce back then. So he moved to New Mexico, and I said, Randy, I finally did. I've been in touch with him forever. And I said, I finally did my record. And I said to him, he goes, holy shit, because this sounds really good. I can't believe how good it is. And I love your singing. And so he liked it. Then also, while I was out in California, I was good friends with this friend of mine, a bass player named Larry Seymour. Larry Seymour toured and did Rock in Rio with Billy Idol. He also played bass on Rod Stewart's Downtown Train on the record. He played bass on that. And he also played in Vegas with Tom Jones. So anyway, Larry now lives in Texas. So I sent him a link on Facebook and he goes, wow, that's really good. And he goes, and the singer really matches your guitar style.
What'd you think of that comment?
I said, the singer is me, clown. And he said, really? He said, you sound great. So, so people in the industry that I respect and know that they could say, yeah, bro, I don't know. They could say that. I heard some people say, well, if you want radio play, you really need to keep it under 4 minutes, like 3.5. And I'm like, yeah, but you can't do that with blues because there's solos. There's some, you're looking at some guitar crafting going on, So that's why if you look, Talkin Blues is short, 3 minutes, 20 seconds. Sweat and Pray, 4 minutes and 17. Strangle by the Hand of Time, almost 5 minutes. But then I figure if I can, and I'm good, they're getting like that. So it goes Talkin Blues first, Sweat and Pray, title cut, right? Then we listen to, at that point, they've decided, get this guy off of my stereo system, or he's pretty fun and I like him. Then we give him Strangle by the Hands of Time. And then at that point, if they go, okay, you know what? There's some validity to this guy. Then we go, would you care to listen to my 8-minute version of Hey Joe? I guarantee you it feels more like 4 minutes, even though it's 8. And everybody that said that, by the time they got to the end of it, they said, it just felt like another song. It didn't feel like, again, I use that same thing. When you're playing a song, if you're looking at your watch, the song's not doing right. It's, you lost the attention span of people, and I try not to do it. And of course, if people don't like your stuff, they're going to be looking at their watch from the beginning to the fucking end,
That's true.
So, but I think I have, they said, wow, it's only 6 songs. I said, yeah, but back in the day, see, 2 of them are 8 minutes long. So back in the day, when people were all like, oh, dude, there were songs that were really long and some short ones. So we have that. But I anticipate my next one to be 8 to 10 songs.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
exciting that you got your debut CD out there, Sweat and Pray. Very exciting that you are having your release party coming up March 24th. There's the CD. For those that are watching the episode, you can see Jimmy holding Sweat and Pray. We'll include the links in the description if you wanted to purchase the CD or perhaps catch Jimmy on one of his live shows. That should be really exciting. And it's just so wonderful, my friend, to have you back on the podcast to talk about the new album. Again, congratulations for
Thank you
putting
so
this
much.
together. And it sounds like you had a lot of great people who also worked on it, and a great first video, Talkin
Oh
Blues.
man. Yeah. And you know what? So far, anybody out there that's made comments on my stuff, I can't thank you enough for believing in me, really. I mean, and I know this just sounds so sappy, but I totally mean it from the bottom of my heart. You don't know what it means for me to be accepted by people, my peers, and other people that are listening to it and saying, wow, we really like it. It means a lot to me, and it's just, this is the way I want to go out. You know what I mean? I want to do my stuff. I have to show something. I have to make a mark, something recorded that said, so my son can say, this is my dad. This is how crazy he used to think. Yeah, not all dads are squares. He's a little out there, but he takes care of me too. So
You never know. He may do something else that inspires something on your next album that you were not
well,
expecting.
I know, and you know what? Now at his age now, they call him. He's got a Spotify channel, and he's a hip hop artist, and he's rapping.
Wow.
And
Okay.
and yeah, and he's got stuff. I know a person that puts stuff in movies, and I gave it to her just because we hadn't caught up, and she goes, "How old's your son?" Last time I talked to her, he was 16. Now he's 18, and I go, "Oh, he's a hip hop guy now." She goes, "Yes, stuff." I go, "Yeah." She goes, "Send it to me." I sent her a song. She goes, I can't stop listening to this. She's taken it. She put it in her catalog. My son and me are both signed with BMI. And hopefully something will happen from him. I mean, he's doing hip hop. It's funny because, you know, I have this property in Sebastian, so he drives these long drives with me. So when he first started playing it, I hadn't really listened to much hip hop. And I was a little put off by it at first. And I did think about possibly going over the medium and driving us head on into oncoming traffic. But I said, no, I'm going to listen to this, because what it reminded me of is when, as a kid, I played Jimi Hendrix for my mom and dad, and they said, get this shit off of here. What are you doing? This is the biggest, and it hurt my feelings incredibly. So I said, let me try to understand this and listen to it, unlike my parents did for me. And I do get it a lot better now. And so we have, we talk about stuff, and it's really funny. We had this big talk about Kanye. All I knew of Kanye is that he was a big mouth. From what I see, he had a lot to say about a lot of stuff. So, before I even got a chance to listen to him already, I kind of hated him, I thought. He goes, no, Dad, Kanye's a genius. I said, I don't know about that. So he plays me all this hip hop, right? In the middle of this hip hop, plays me those most melodic shit I've ever heard. And I go, why don't all the guys write songs like that? And he goes, I go, what? He goes, it's Kanye, Dad. I go, oh, you sneaky. So he was right.
Just like rock and roll, though, there's lots of branches of the genre. So hip hop is the same. Of course, it's been around since the late 70s. So a little newer in that sense compared to rock and the blues.
Yes.
But there's lots of different subgenres of hip hop, and as you know, of rock and jazz and all that other stuff.
Yes. So he played me this stuff, and this guy's going, I said, what's that? He goes, oh yeah, Dad, that's called whisper rap. The guy's like, I said, does he do that live? What is he? And we started laughing, But and actually at one point he goes, Dad, what do you think of this thing? And he played me it. And I go, wow, that's pretty cool. He goes, would you want to lay some guitar down on there for me? I go, yeah, I'd like to lay some guitar down on there for you. I was proud to do it, So yeah, you never know.
But you never know. That sort of thing, something that may not be what you would typically do, sometimes can bring you an audience that perhaps would not have heard you otherwise if it wasn't for tapping into some other types of music. So
yep. And you know what? I would say from listening to that, I'm not saying that I'm going to be like, rapping or anything, but I think a little of that groove, it got in me a little bit. I may write a tune that just has, it might have that groove, which really a lot of that stuff is sampled from like early 70s drum styles. You know what I mean?
You're sticking to what you want to do, and that's important. And you are tying in a lot of your influences, and you're writing a lot of your songs now, which is fantastic. So, which is great to be able to hear what you're working on, both currently with Sweat and Pray, and also what could be coming up down the road with whatever that project could look like when you're ready to do it. So just been great having you on, Jimmy. Thanks so much for taking the time to revisit the podcast. It's been too long. 2020 was the last time we connected, so we know a lot has happened since then. But again, great to have you on. So as you get ready to close things out, I want to pitch it off to you. Any last word you want to share with supporters, fans of yours? The floor is yours. Take us home.
All I can say is if you get a minute, hang on, stay with me. IANO.com. Here, you want to go right there. See how pro I am? See how I just came up with that? JimiFiano.com. Go over there, check out my shit, subscribe to my link, and perhaps buy my CD or keep in touch with me. I put the gigs wherever I'm playing. And try to keep me in your thoughts, because more and more stuff's coming, and I'm just out there trying to please people with my music. So, that's all I could say, man.